The Talaria sting is in the news, and it's not actually good press. There was actually an issue with one of the e-bikes that they sold to a customer. It caught fire after about 20 miles. This is their brand new MX5 that they've been shipping out. In fact, I purchased one on Monday, and it's gonna get here sometime next week. So there are issues. I wanted to talk about that. Let's take a look at this and watch this real quick. So here's the video of the battery catching fire, and it definitely came from the battery, and this was the MX5. It's been confirmed that this is the MX5. We just don't know why this caught fire, and that's really the big question here, but it definitely caught fire, and that is concerning. So the big question is, what is Talaria going to do about it? And they are definitely aware of it, and they posted something on a blog, and I'll link the description of the blog if you want to read it for yourself. But they say, there was an incident reported last night on social media which shows a Talaria MX5 that allegedly was involved in a battery fire. This is the first major Talaria fire of any model reported in the USA, which we take this very seriously and plan to address this concern with utmost priority. So they are concerned about it, even though we don't know exactly how the battery caught fire, and there could be a myriad of things happening here. They could have bypassed the BMS on the battery could have been damaged in shipping, there could have been something else that happened. And they continue saying, since the start, Talaria has used Greenway Batteries, a battery factory in China that is responsible for making most of the e-bike batteries in the USA. Now this is unsurprising. Most of the batteries from eRide Pro SS, from Suron, from Talaria are going to come from China, if not all of them. I'm pretty positive about that. So batteries coming from China is nothing new. It depends on the cells that they're using, because there are Samsung cells, there's Panasonic cells, there's LG cells, there's Molicel cells. There's a lot of good cells out there. There's even some good Chinese cells that are out there, but there's a lot of bad cells as well. So that's the bigger issue that really I'm worried about. So let's continue. So they say some of the first Talaria MX5s arriving in the USA were made by a different China battery company called Scud. And they say due to a clerical error made by the Talaria team, despite Luna requesting only Greenway batteries in their MX5 order. So this may be true, I don't know. We got to take this with a grain of salt here, because maybe they requested batteries only from Greenway and they got both, and they just decided to ship both, and it was probably going to be fine. And then Scud batteries started failing, or in this instance, this specific battery, which was a Scud model, failed, and we don't know the reason why. That's a big thing. We really have no idea why this failed, but it was done in this by this specific manufacturer, and that's going to be the issue. And they're taking this extremely seriously, because they're going to recall all of those Scud batteries and replace them with Greenway batteries, and they're going to do this free of charge. Not only that, they're also going to throw in a care package. They said that they were also going to throw in like some bars, a seat, etc. They may throw in other things for people who got that Scud battery. So that is really nice to see. And I want to praise Lunicycle, because this is what you expect and what you want to see from a company on how to fix issues such as this. Battery fires are no joke. They burn really hot, the fumes are toxic, you really don't want this in your house. It could be a liability, it could be a danger to human life. This is a big problem, and they're taking it seriously. They're recalling any of the Scud packs that they have out there. They're issuing free stuff to them. Like, really, kudos to Lunicycle for actually nipping this in the bud and doing it the right way. This is the best response I think Lunicycle could actually give in this scenario. It's a bad time. I know a bunch of people canceled their orders, and a lot of people online were saying, oh, I better get the eRide Pro SS. eRide Pro SS could have the same issue as well. But I think the way they're handling it is really graceful. So they continue in saying Luna will be replacing all MX5 Scud packs that have already been sold or delivered with the Greenway battery packs that we know are proven safe. And if you already ordered a bike, your shipment's on the way. They're gonna reverse it, catch it mid-flight, and they're gonna send it back to Talaria and get you one that works, which is nice. So they issued a public statement, and they're really just nipping this in the bud. This is great. So talking about the batteries themselves, there are 3 different batteries, and you can see the height difference between the two. So the Light BX, this is going to be a 40 amp hour, 60 volt battery pack, and I'm not sure what cells they use. The MX4 uses a 2170, so that's a fairly large cell. It's larger than the 18650 cell they use in smaller battery packs. So they're using a 2170 5000 milliamp hour LG cell in the MX4. And the MX5 is going to use a 2170 5000 Samsung 50S cell. So they went from LG to Samsung, and I think that's actually a better quality cell, the Samsung 50S. And I wonder if the Scud battery packs had the same Samsung cells in them. So I am curious to see if the Scud packs maybe had different cells in them than the Samsung 50S, and there was an issue there. And that's kind of where my curiosity lies at this point, because I could see a world where they sold Chinese cells or something like that, and they had a runaway fire with that. The reason is this. So all cells have some built-in protection in them. So here under Battery University, so ever since 2012, we've had this mandate to actually have safety built into our batteries. And what this essentially is a fuse that opens if there's high current, if there's pressure, or something else. So the battery will fuse itself off permanently and not allow any power to go through it. The hope is to save your battery from thermal runaway and starting an actual fire. Maybe they'll smoke a little and then it should just dissipate after that. So this is actually a really good thing that a lot of battery cells do today. So this is called a current interrupt device, a CID. It's a fuse type device. And here it says it could be triggered by excessive cell pressure, high temperature, or high voltage. And it really just depends on the design. And Grin Technologies, a company in Canada, has talked about this extensively, where they tried to actually get some of their battery packs to fail, and they use Samsung cells in most of their battery packs, and they could not get them to fail, or fail catastrophically, that is. They would charge from 0 volts to full voltage and do max speed the entire time. They would overcharge it. They did all sorts of things. They never got magic smoke from their batteries. What would happen is the CID would trigger on the cell, and you would lose that cell before you would ever have any fire or smoke. With some China cells, they skirt around this, and they don't have great manufacturing, or the manufacturing isn't as strict, and they don't have a good QC process, and bad cells will get out into the wild, and then they'll fail catastrophically. And in my opinion, I think that's what happens to most of the battery fires that you see for e-bike fires, for laptop fires, for any fires that happen. It's just a bad cell that happens to go rogue. But I'd say, Panasonic, LG makes some high quality cells. Samsung makes great high quality cells. Molacell makes really good cells. There's a bunch of companies that make good quality cells, and I think you have to have really good QC as well, so that people can know you for your reliability for that to happen. If you're using a different cell or a no-name brand, especially from China, you're really in for a world of hurt. You really have to be careful from battery packs that come from China that are these big 40 amp, 72 volt battery packs for $500, $600. They are just a bomb, nuclear reactor waiting to happen in your environment. Okay, going on a tangent. So to wrap up, I have an MX5 coming to me right now. Does the battery fire actually change anything for me? No. I think Lunicycle is doing a good job. They're going to get it fixed, and we're going to get this all figured out. For the most part, battery fires are not an issue for a product like this. They're going to have a really good high-quality battery pack. They're going to have high-quality cells, and you have all sorts of checks and balances to prevent something like this from happening. You have your cells, which have their fuse built into it. You have fuses on the outside. Essentially their fuses. What happens is that when you weld all this together in series, you could have a fuse type cell structure where it could fuse off, or it could burn itself up if it's going extremely high current. You have the BMS it has to go through, and I'm not sure if this one has a breaker or not, but it definitely has to go through the BMS. So you have a lot of protection for this particular type of bike to not self-destruct and not go thermonuclear on you and have your entire house burn down. So we know that's bad, and we don't want that to happen. I'm not really concerned about it. I think it's something that's getting taken care of. but it definitely is a concern for early adopters. If you are concerned about this at all, maybe give it a few months to shake out, make sure that there are no other battery fires happening. Don't store these in your house. Maybe even don't store these in your garage. I don't know. I'm going to store mine in my garage. It's very unlikely for a battery just to catch fire if it's just doing nothing. So if it's just sitting there doing nothing, it's probably not going to catch fire. If you're charging it, that is the most risky time for a battery when you're adding charge to a particular battery. It's going to warm up, and you're going to be charging at 15 amps. It's set at 84 volts, so almost 1300 watts. That's a lot of power going into the battery, so definitely monitor your battery, especially when you first get it, to make sure while it's charging you don't have any issues there. And when you're discharging it, that's the other time where you could have some type of thermal runaway event, and this could happen from a puncture if you crash really hard or something like that. But for the most part, like Lunicycle mentioned, in the last 8 years, they haven't had any issues, any major issues like this one. This is really the first one, and it happened on a battery that they've never used before. So that's probably the issue. We will revisit this once everything gets settled, but that's kind of what's going on. That's what's happening in the rumor mill, and just thought to talk about it. Thanks for watching. Bye.